We had expected that the roadmap for the way out of the lockdown would have been published today. It hasn't happened. Is it going to happen tomorrow?
Very much hope it will happen tomorrow. We did have a further discussion this morning, as well as discussing the ports issue. We discussed the roadmap issue. I think we have a very clear view now as to how we can move forward, and the officials are just finishing that off this evening.
Can you give us any idea of what it will contain without breaking confidence?
Well, obviously I'm not going to break confidence, and I listened very carefully to what the Finance Minister had to say. We will of course be looking at where we are in relation to health, but also where we are in relation to society, where we are in relation to our economy, balancing all of those issues up and moving forward in a gradual way. We will of course have to take into account the fact that there may be new variants coming along, but of course and also reflect on the vaccine programme, which has been a huge success for Northern Ireland.
Are you all agreed? Are you all agreed on what the programme will contain?
Yes, I think broadly we are agreed. As you would know, Paul, we would have liked to have moved faster in certain areas, particularly in relation to schools. We would have liked to have seen all of the children back in school on the 8th of March. Others took a different view. I have to respect that, because as First Minister I have to try and find consensus around the executive.
So that will remain. There will be no change. There will be no change then to the reopening of schools.
Well, I think what you will see is a desire to give clarity to parents and to professionals, because we do recognise that the kitchen table is no substitute for the classroom. We will give clarity to parents and teachers in the middle of March. So P1 to P3 will come back on the 8th of March, and then we will endeavour to give clarity to people in and around St Patrick's Day.
And people, of course, before that will hope that what we hear tomorrow will offer some clarity. Can you assure us of that?
Well, what we will be doing tomorrow is setting out a process. I hope that will give clarity to people so that they can understand the process of how we move forward. I know people have a desire to have dates, but what we will be putting forward is the review date. So you will see exactly where we will comprehensively review every month what is going on. But don't forget as well, as we did last year, we can move faster if circumstances change. And I think that's the flexibility that will be in the plan, which I think people will welcome.
Wouldn't it be strange, though, if your dates weren't in line with GB and the Republic?
Well, of course, we have to take into account what's happening here in terms of the vaccine rollout, what's happening in terms of transmission, where the R rate is, where our hospitals are at. But I very much hope that we will all move in a similar trajectory. That's my hope, and I'm sure it's the hope of many in Northern Ireland as well.
And won't you be depending on people being well behaved, particularly those who would be tempted to have a party around St Patrick's or indeed at Easter?
Yes, well, again, we're appealing to people to come with us in all of this journey to do the right thing.
But we know that they haven't always listened in the past.
That is right. But I think the vast majority of people in Northern Ireland do listen, because they recognise that they want this to be the last lockdown. They want to be able to come out so that we don't have to go into this situation again. My goodness, Paul, this has been a terrible year for so many people. When I reflect on so many people who have lost family members throughout the year, so many people who have had difficulties in relation to financial difficulties, mental health difficulties, and in order to leave this lockdown behind us, we have to do it in a gradual way. But I say to people to stick with us, and we will get there.
Do you think people will be able to go on holiday to Fermanagh?
Oh, I very much hope so. You know, I'm a great proponent for
indeed, I
holiday
do.
to Fermanagh, but I do hope...
Will it be a holiday for people this year?
Well, I do hope that people will be able to take some time away this year, whether it's in Fermanagh or North Antrim or down in South Down. I very much hope that people will be able to enjoy some time away. Well, we'll have to see where the vaccine programme is in the Republic of Ireland. Of course, our vaccine programme is very strong. I'm very delighted about that, but we will have to take recognition of the fact that it's maybe not going as fast in the Republic.
People will want to know when they can go back to church. They'll also want to know when they can get their hair cut.
Yes, and I have to pay tribute to the faith communities right across Northern Ireland and the fact that they have worked so closely with the executive in partnership in that way. I very much hope that we will be able to get back to congregational worship again very soon. It's something that I miss terribly, I have to say, Paul, particularly singing and making a joyful noise, even though it may not be a very harmonious one. I really do miss the congregational aspect of worship, so I do hope that we can go back to that as soon as possible.
What about haircuts?
Well, I'm not even going to mention that, Paul, as I'm sure many of your viewers are looking at my hair and saying, absolutely, she definitely does need to visit a hairdresser. Look, as well as the fact of having our hair appointments, I recognise that for many people it is a mental health issue as well. And I've been contacted by many who do want to go back to their hairdressers, beauticians, whatever, in the very near future. And tomorrow we'll set out a process whereby I hope people will have more certainty in relation to that.
And how then would you hope that we would get Northern Ireland back on its feet in every way after this is over?
Well, tomorrow is about a pathway out of restrictions. We will then have a more fundamental issue at hand, and that is a more medium-term issue about recovery. And that recovery is not just economic recovery, although that's a huge part of it. It's also about societal recovery and community recovery. And we know that that's something that people will watch very carefully.
Can you say with any certainty that this will be the final lockdown?
Well, as you've heard me say, I want this to be the final lockdown. I think people have in some ways struggled to cope with this lockdown. It's certainly been tougher than this time last year. You'll remember our first COVID case was on the 27th of February last year, and we've come through all of that. So I'm asking people to work with us so that we can make this our last lockdown, and I hope the vaccination programme will make that a reality.
They will hope for much tomorrow.
They will indeed.
And will they get it?
I hope that they will get it, but what I will say to them as well is that they have to work with us so that we can get through this next period of time. We're now at the beginning of March. We need to get through until the summer. It'll be a gradual stepping out of restrictions, and as I've said, we need then to look at the recovery in a more meaningful way.
Arlene Foster, thank you very much.
Thank you.